doing, everybody? This is episode 4 of Shooting the Shit. I'm here with my very good friend, Alec Dean. Alec, how we doing, baby?
Stovemeister in the cut. Just check. How do I look? My hair. I'm using this new gel. How's it look? Good?
What gel are you using?
I forget what it's called. It's like a mousse. I'm more into that nowadays.
You're a mousse guy?
It's like a mature look.
Okay, I like that.
I don't know. Yeah.
Business as usual, yes.
Yes, brother. Always. Come
So
on.
I want to give you a big plug right here. Something that I want to talk about to open this up is your business, Waffleboyz, right?
Sure.
So you're at Instagram. Your ad is Waffleboyz, Waffleboyz, and operates University of Miami and University of Florida. So why don't you explain how this started, what this business is?
Yes, so Waffleboyz LLC.
Mm-hmm. To get it right.
Twisted,
okay.
LLC, Limited Liability Corporation, just in case anyone dies of a food allergy. But, so Waffleboyz. So again, when people ask me, I'll start like this. I like to start like this. When people ask me, what's your major in college? I say major in billions, minor in millions. And the reason I say that is I believe college is an avenue to make money. There's a lot of different ways to make money. I think kids are so super saturated with schoolwork. You know, they're engaged in a lot of different things, and they feel like food is on the back end, right? That's why Uber is so popular, especially among college kids. Uber Eats, DoorDash, all these things, which we are on DoorDash. Check us out. But, so kids don't really want to go through the means of producing food, making food, so they go to Uber. Even though it's a little surcharged, the capital that it takes is less than when they're studying, stuff like that. So my friend and I'll give you a little background. We started the company. The first idea we had, it was February of 2019, sophomore year. We were sitting at the cafeteria of Miami, University of Miami, and we were talking about, let's start a business. So the first idea we had was an ice machine company. We're going to produce ice, buy an ice machine, call it something unique, and sell them to the frats for tailgates and stuff like that. Every frat, University of Miami, it's a hot school. We have tailgates and stuff like that. They buy like 100 bags of ice, $4 a piece, $3 a piece, $400 per frat. There's 10 frats, you're making $4,000, right? So the idea we had was that, but an ice machine was like $3,000, 3.5. We didn't have the money at the time. It didn't really make sense. So the next idea we had was let's do a little food cart of hot dogs and hamburgers. The idea was, from New York, obviously. New York City, we go to clubs.
Dirty water dogs.
Of course, dirty water dogs. But those carts, and that's what the real estate is so expensive at those carts. They're paying like $4,000 a month because they're doing $4,000 a night in the city. Right. Obviously pre-coronavirus, but anyone coming out of a club, you're buying hot dogs, hamburgers, pretzels, drinks, all that stuff. The margins are crazy. But it doesn't exist in Miami. And I think the reason for that is, the reason that didn't work, and it relates to why they don't really exist, is there's no food vendors in Miami. You can't operate on the street, and I think it's because they want to preserve that cleanliness of the area. It's a very, artsy area, and a lot of times those food trucks and those food vendors, it kind of deteriorates the area because, people drop food on this floor, they have the pretzels on the floor, They don't eat it all, they drop the drinks and stuff like that. So Miami doesn't allow that. So then we stumbled across waffles. We said, okay. Honestly, one of our other friends that goes to Indiana, he had the idea as well, and we figured let's kind of try to couple that and produce a successful business. I believe success in a business, and this is related just in all businesses, I think it requires two things. When you analyze a successful business, the first thing you look at is, do they have a successful product? Businesses fail because they don't, right? Pizza shops have bad pizza, they're not going to be successful.
Yeah, exactly.
But the harder part is, how do you systematically cultivate success through that product? That's the hard part, and that's what capitalism is, right? There's no differentiation for the most part. Products are very similar. A pepperoni pie is a pepperoni pie, but how do you market it? How do you make it successful? That's the hard part. So we decided, okay, we're in college, we have access to a lot of different kids. Let's do a waffle company. We got the generic batter. It used to be Aunt Jemima. I think they changed the name now. It's not Aunt Jemima. But so we got the generic batter, $10. Bought 2 waffle makers, $30 each, and we started just throwing ingredients in: Oreos, chocolate chips, Fruity Pebbles, just hammering it.
That's wild.
Kids are high, they're drunk, they want sweet snacks.
They want something.
The best way I would describe it, because it really got popular really, really quick, and the way I describe it is, so that night when we decided to have the idea, we had a pool party that Saturday. Text the president of my frat, Will Rosenberg. Shout out, Will. I'll send you this link. You can watch it. He texted me, and I texted him, and I said, you think me and Klein, who's the other kid, Dan Klein, the other co-founder, I said, we're going to do waffles this weekend. We're going to make waffles at our pool party. You think we could sell them? And his response was, and Will's a great kid. He's really not like this, but he responded with, I think it's kind of weird that you guys are selling waffles, but do whatever you want. I said, okay, Will. My next text with Will is a week later. He texted me, you think I can come through for some waffles? So in a week, we were able to popularize it so much to a point where everyone knew about it. Because, number one, I think dessert industry, and this is where, and I'll get to how we're going to cultivate success, and I do believe it will be successful past just colleges, is you need to kind of find the principles and the maxims that are successful in an industry and try to capitalize off that. So what's dessert? It tastes, obviously, but it's also, is it marketable, right? You look at Snapchat every day, you got desserts all over. You have the Instagram pages of desserts, they have 10 million followers.
They know that
pretty,
people,
right?
They know people are going to market for them.
Exactly.
Which is really smart.
You ask a lot of girls in sororities, the main gift they give to their littles or their bigs, desserts, because it's easy, it looks cool, and it could show other people, look how cool I am, I have this cool new dessert. So the idea that we have and how we believe in cultivating success is, so honestly right now, actually, the original idea, and I'll get to it, is we wanted to open around different college campuses because, again, number one, we believe college kids like to be the thing. They want to be part of the thing. The problem with University of Miami is, though, there's so much competition. It's the hub of desserts, of trendy stuff, of new desserts, like New York City, very similar. Rent is high. So what we have, our new goal is I want to open in schools like New Paltz, like Cortland, like Binghamton. Because
you're hitting the SUNYs.
Right. Well, the rent is cheap, right? Binghamton, most expensive apartments are like $650 a month. Get a little window, like $200, $300 a month. We're selling waffles at $7 a piece. Sell 10 in a, you know, right now I operate in my garage just because I want to keep the intensity with it, keep the name up and keep the brand up and keep people excited about it and show people what I can do in terms of the product. I'm selling my garage from 9 to 1, 30 waffles, making $210 in a spot next to a bar in Binghamton, coupled with my knowing of kids in Pie Lam, which is one of the best frats, have someone work there. I could sell 100 waffles a night. Outside of DoorDash. We're on DoorDash. So now I have DoorDash getting 50 waffles a night. I'm selling 150 waffles a night at $7 a piece. Wow. What is that? $1,050?
How'd you get up to sign up for DoorDash? Did you have to go through a whole process?
So I hope no one on DoorDash listens to this because this would be a little... We actually forged our business in terms of... Because you need to prove legitimacy. DoorDash is like a step below Uber Eats in terms of like how... the stringent requirements that you have to get on. Uber Eats, they look into your tax ID and all that stuff. Yeah. DoorDash, you just kind of have to sell them pictures and stuff like that. So, we took little pictures from here, from there, some of our stuff, and we got on DoorDash. DoorDash got so big for us that the problem, and this is actually a funny story, a lot of Uber drivers in Miami, DoorDash drivers, are Hispanic, Latin American influence. They don't really speak a lot of English. So on our DoorDash application, we said we had a store, which you do. It was my apartment in school. So these people were coming up, calling me like, ¿Dónde estás la tienda? And it's my apartment. So they have no clue where it is. So we ran into some problems with DoorDash, but we were getting like 15 to 20 DoorDash orders a night. It started with kids in my frat, extended to kids I have no clue who they were. Wow. So backtrack a little bit because I forgot to mention this. And yes, I could talk about this all day. We started with the generic batter. We got to a point where people were ordering so much that we needed to invest in some higher quality batter. So we use Waffle Pantry now. It's it comes in powder. We make it into dough. It comes out to around 33 cents a waffle after we throw it on. And the genius of what we do, which a lot of companies don't do, is we infuse our waffles. So it's kind of like those, those like slutty brownies. That's what they're called. Where you have like the Oreos and stuff in it. Companies don't do that. And my whole thing is people in society perceive waffles as a breakfast food. But it's ultimately just dough and sugar, just like a cookie, right? So we kind of want to convince people, be the first to convince people that waffles could be a dessert just as cookies could. And then use Insomnia Cookies' model, which was to open around bars in Syracuse, Cortland. That's what they did. Insomnia Cookies, which is a late night cookie shop, they opened around bars. They sold they became a Krispy Kreme bought most of them, became a majority shareholder in Insomnia Cookies for $500 million. Wow. So I'll take 20 or 10 or 1 or 500,000, but because, again, I don't believe in the waffle. I believe in the waffles, but I more just believe in successful habits cultivating success. That's that second point of a successful business. You have to figure out, how do I make my product successful? And then once you do, you just got to run with it. And that's kind of what we want to do. We want to open around kind of smaller schools around the bars, maximize profit, and then go from there.
I'll be your guy, man. I'll be your kingpin.
That's what I'm saying. I want to do that. I want to do like smaller schools have a manager, like a guy like you or like Jack Ryan here, someone like that. Shout out Jack Ryan, Mr. President. Manage the store and just split the profits, because if they manage it, and eventually the cool part about those businesses where there's such, it's simple in terms of what you have to do. You just have to mass produce waffles, right? Ferrari is a less profitable company than Toyota. And the reason I bring that up is you don't need to make the Ferrari to become successful. You just have to really be good at what you do, find your target market, and just mass produce the shit out of it.
You're right.
That's it.
Enough people will buy it.
Ferrari does way less business than Toyota. Even though Ferrari's obviously a $200,000 car, how many people are buying $200,000 cars? Everyone wants the $20,000, $30,000 car if they can't afford it. That's the whole point. So Toyota is valued way higher than Ferrari because of that reason. And that's kind of what I figured out. And that's kind of what I believe it's important to start businesses at a young age, just because you learn from doing, in my opinion.
You can make some mistakes. You could always have time to learn. So Alec, this is something that I wanted to do with you. I have a surprise. This is not planned at all.
I'm excited.
Okay, here we go, baby. Here we go. I gotta show the camera. These are some nameless waffles.
Wow. What is that Fugazi-ish right there?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even know how this ended up in my house.
What is that?
We're gonna try it. There's some Belgium waffles.
Which is what we do as well. We do Liège Belgian waffles, the one you'd find in like ski resorts. Similar to that. And it's funny that you bring that. This is unplanned.
Here, take
Thank you.
No problem.
So this is one of the things that we wanted to do.
Okay.
So the difference between this and our waffles look very similar. We infuse ingredients though. So we're gonna have in the batter, you're gonna have Oreos, you're gonna have Fruity Pebbles, all different ingredients. We wanted to maybe do packaging. That's one of the. I didn't want to disclose that.
That would be really cool. Honestly,
we want to package, and I want to try these. We want to package.
Cheers.
Very good. They probably use the same dough that we do.
Yeah,
it tastes very similar. But the thing is,
I'm sorry. What's your dough made out of? One more time.
So it's called Waffle Pantry. They mass produce the powder, and they ship you the powder, and then it's where every waffle cabin, everything, every like Liège waffle company that do the ski resorts, this is what they use.
Okay.
So it's really good.
I'm glad you like. Are there any main differences that are shooting out? Is this sweeter? Is this less sweet than your average waffle?
So they definitely use the pearl sugar that we use as well. The difference is, so this is what exists, right? And this is a small market. Right. No one really thinks waffles are like this huge, new, big market. They don't do that well. Cookies and, those are obviously more profitable. Our goal is, because this is pretty simple, it's very good. But if we were able to package infused waffles where you get this and there's Oreos in it, or there's chocolate chips in it, or there's graham crackers in it, game over, right? The essence of capitalism is outperforming your competition through differentiation. That's what it is. That's what success is. This is a possibility. I have to look into this. This is one of the things we wanted to do. And the cool part about it too is I spoke to a successful restaurant owner in Westchester who's friends with the family of the co-founder that I do with, Daniel. He's a restaurant owner, and we sat with him, we met with him, we provided our business plan. He wants to potentially invest in the future, and his idea was package waffles, sell them to airlines and stuff like that. But his fear was, I don't know if there's a big enough market for waffles, right? So I sat with that point, and I thought about it, and I said, maybe there's not a big enough market for traditional waffles. But you can add to your product line through differentiation of that main product, right? So something else that we're doing now is we're doing mini waffles. Selling July 4th waffles, 24 mini
That's what I wanted to bring up to you. I saw a lot of advertising around. That was a very good idea.
Right.
I remember, did you cater stuff like that? That was more for catering events?
Right, so it was July 4th for barbecues. And I thought, what do people bring to barbecues, right? Munchkins, things designed like July 4th.
Right.
It's rare someone's going to order 20 mini, big waffles. So I figured, okay, people bring munchkins, people bring donuts. Let's do 24 or 12, 16, whatever you want, mini waffles. You'll have the best dessert at the party because it's the most different. No one's ever seen that before. No one does that. But why can't waffles be cookies? Why can't waffles be cupcakes? Baked by Melissa. Their whole point is we do not make big cupcakes. Why? Of course they can, but their nuance, what makes them successful is we make small cupcakes and that's it. their cupcakes aren't any better than what you and I can make. We can make the same things, but they've been able to capitalize off the differentiation of what they do, just as what we're trying to do, and cultivate a $100 million company. That's what we want to do. I know there's obviously a tangent, but what we're trying to do now is actually, and this is a newly invented idea. Also, our waffles are way better than this. I appreciate the gesture.
You know, I was gonna say I needed to point that out. Like
They're
you
way
gotta
better.
get the real waffles here.
Yeah.
You gotta get those waffles.
We have a goal of, like I said, kind of shipping to people for birthdays and stuff like that, but that's down the line. But the new idea that we have is to have two separate LLCs. Waffleboyz LLC to target, because it's like a cool, trendy name. We have the cool colors,
Right.
the merch and stuff like that. Target the colleges, right? Get kids coming from the bars, have an ambassador at the school operate, so they work and cultivate success, but also have this new idea. My friend from school, his name's Rob. His dad is a beer distributor in Pittsburgh. Top beer distributor, distributes to the Pirates, the Penguins, all major sport teams. But he also has like 8 wine and spirit stores across Pittsburgh. The most profitable of them being in the north side of Pittsburgh, which is not a great area, but it's a beer and cigarette store. It does around $70,000 a week in profit.
Christ.
So that's around 3.5 million.
Oh my
3.6 million a year in beer and cigarettes. That's it.
If you get a good location.
That's all it is.
That's all it
So
is.
he owns the real estate of a strip there. It's actually vacant right now. So my goal is once school ends, I'm going to move to Pittsburgh for a few months, open a chicken and waffle spot, which would leverage the same market that the beer and the cigarette company does right next to it. And we believe we can cultivate $1 million company through that.
Is that something you're like?
Yeah, it's pretty set in stone right
That's
now.
fucking awesome, man.
We're going to sign a lease with Rob's dad.
That's
pretty
so
soon.
cool, man.
Yeah.
Nice.
And honestly, and that
That's
kind of
big
relates.
news.
Yeah, that kind of relates to like a point that I kind of want to talk about in terms of success. Because again, like, I guess it might not be the smartest thing to say in terms of talking about someone's business, but I don't really like love waffles. Like, I never was a culinary type of kid. Like, I never really, you know.
I was a little surprised when
Yeah,
you
I
went down
never-
that adventure.
I never really like, you know, made food. The best dinner I can make is a lean cuisine frozen meal.
Yeah.
But I believe in success. That's what I believe in. I believe any product can be successful if you figure out systematically how to make it successful. And that's the hardest part. So if it's not waffles, it's real estate. If it's not real estate, it's finance. Whatever it may be, I believe I can make it successful. If I see a profit of +1, I'll open 1 million businesses to become a millionaire. I don't really care about the work. Hard work isn't what frightens me. I honestly go towards hard work because I like that. I like creating something that's successful for me. Michael Jordan has a great quote. He says, because a lot of people say Michael Jordan has a gambling problem. He says, I don't have a gambling problem, I have a competitive problem.
Right.
Something that I personally think I have as well. I think when I feel threatened by someone, I want to beat them, not so that people can think that I'm better than them, but that's what gets me up in the morning. Beating other people in terms of what I want to accomplish. And I don't think it's selfish or it's cocky. I personally want to be the best I can be.
Some people have that in them.
Right.
Yeah.
And I believe success is a pretty steadfast idea where, you know, Derek Jeter and Warren Buffett, I believe, while their means of achieving success are very different, I believe that there's something in both of them that has led to their success, whether it's they eat eggs at 7 a.m. or it's whatever it is. Derek Jeter is a great baseball player. Warren Buffett's a great trader. By something in them inherently. And my goal in my young age is kind of acquiring that knowledge, formulating success through my own successful habits, and breeding success. So that's kind of what that whole chicken and waffles idea is. It's more about management than I'm not going to be making the waffles. I'm going to hire someone to make them. But it's more about, like you said, location, identifying a profitable location, cultivating success, and then taking the proceeds and engage in something else. You know what I mean? It's not really about the waffles. It's more about money.
Making the money, yeah.
That's really what it is.
Yeah. And that's really great that you're actually like, very few people will come out and say that. Yeah. Very, very few people will actually admit that that's what, like, obviously that's why people are running a business. You know what I mean? Just because you own 100%. An Italian restaurant, just because you own a pizza place doesn't mean that you're a pizza connoisseur.
Right,
you know
exactly. I mean? And I think that kind of relates to that idea of, like, I've always, you've known me for a while, like, I've always been a systematic kid in terms of what society outlines as success. All right. So, just about success, I think society, and I think it's because we emphasize school so much, which I think is important. I think we are convinced that formula of working hard, getting good grades leads to a happy ending. I think we need that in society. I think it's important to have people that have bought into that formula. But I'm actually reading a book right now. It's called Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Mm.
And the essence of the book is if you work for someone else your whole life doing something, it's called a rat race. You'll never escape because people are dominated by two things. It's fear and desire. So it's fear that you won't achieve those desires. You're making $40,000 a year. Your fear is I can't pay for my kids' education. I can't put food on the table. You're nervous. You're making $300,000 a year. The fear is I can't pay my Ferrari payments. My neighbors are going to judge me.
Right. Everyone has their problems.
Everyone has those fears, and it's fear of not achieving those desires. But if you have variable income and you cultivate success through income, which is what you do that makes you to make money, and then assets, which is what you have that makes you money, your success is variable. So you can live your life based on how your business does. If you own restaurants or own a business, you have a great year. Okay, now I'll buy something for myself. You have a down year. Now you make a decision. I think it's Warren Buffett. They say Warren Buffett's worth like $100 billion. Every morning he looks at the S&P 500. He looks at Berkshire Hathaway, his fund. If it's down, he buys the $1 bacon, egg, and cheese. If it's up, he buys the $5 bacon, egg, and cheese.
Right.
And it's that mindset. I mean, Warren Buffett can afford $1 trillion bacon, egg, and cheese, but it's that mindset that if you live on your variable income, because if you work for someone else, you're working your whole life to achieve someone else's goals. That's very suppressive, right? You're not. Even if you're a doctor, you're trying to make the hospital money, and then the hospital pays you. If you're working for yourself, you then are going through your own goals, and if it's not waffles, it's real estate, and if it's not real estate, it's something else. You're working for yourself, and in turn, you learn more, and you also can grow more. Who are the richest people in the world? It's not the doctors, it's not the lawyers, it's Bezos, who started with an idea at 19, didn't turn profit till 30, and now is the richest man in the world because he bought into what he believed in and said, I'm not going to work for someone else. I have a good idea. I'm going to dedicate my life to this. If it works, I'll be proud of myself and I'll have $1 trillion. If it doesn't, I'll learn from it and I'll make it in the next thing that I do. That's what I believe success is because, and again, I don't mean to criticize people that work for a steady income because most people do, including my parents. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
I'm
exactly.
not criticizing them, but if you really want to get on Forbes, which is my dream one day, to cultivate so much success that I'm looked up to in a matter of how to achieve success, you need to work for yourself. There's no real other way to achieve that level of prosperity. Right. So my biggest fear, and this is a very cliche idea, but it's true. My biggest fear is failure in anything. I'm a big podcast listener. I'm a big listener, like I said before, of people that are successful. Something that Kobe says is, my biggest fear is failure. Death is, and rest in peace, Kobe Bryant, and it's sad because he said this in his documentary before he passed away, is I'd rather die than fail. And ultimately, that happened to him. He never failed because I will do anything it takes to achieve success. It's not, like I said, it's not about sleep. It's not about, if I see someone that potentially has a better chance of achieving success than I do, I will do everything in my power to beat them because my biggest fear is failure. That's what gets me up in the morning. And I believe that, and I've looked at people that are very successful, like these big traders, like Ray Dalio, all these big finance guys. It's not about money to them anymore. Their great grandkids can have enough to live times 10. But it's about competition. It's about achieving success in everything that you do. And of course, failure is going to happen. You're going to fail. And I think a lot of people, especially in our society, because we're so used to instant gratification, failure is a deterrent to continue on your goals because homework nowadays, you don't know an answer, you look on Google, you go and check. So when people face adversity, especially our society, I believe they back away, they shy away. I don't. I like failure because whenever you fail, you learn from that adversity and then you cultivate success. I think if you set broad enough goals, and this is relating to what Kobe said, he said that failure, my biggest fear is failure, and also failure doesn't exist. And then the person interviewing him during that conversation laughed, like, oh, okay. He's like, no, I truly mean that. What is failure? It's something that society outlined for us to exist, but just because you don't achieve your goals on Monday, there's still Tuesday, there's still Wednesday, there's still Thursday. If you allow yourself to fail, you'll fail. But if you have a goal of becoming a millionaire, like I said, if I cultivate a $1 business, I will open 1 million businesses and become a millionaire. There's no doubt in my mind because there's nothing stopping me but myself, Right. Honestly, but I think that kind of, in terms of what you're saying about success, I think it relates to the fact that success is relative, right? Just because it's very like philosophical, but what's the goal of life? It's not to make money, it's to be happy, in my opinion.
No.
Some people don't need trillions of dollars to be successful or to be happy. Success is achieving your goals at a higher rate than you don't, in my opinion. And some people, like myself, I'll admit, I'd be lying to you if it wasn't, is to make a lot of money. Some people it's not, right? It's not about money, it's about putting food on their table every single day. And if you do that 6 days out of 7, you're successful. But those things are more important to some people than making millions of dollars or driving nice cars. To some people, that's not what it's about. And I think that's the essence of life is, what are your goals? Try to establish them at a young age, and then dedicate your life to achieving those. It doesn't have to be money. It could be, being happy in your occupation, and then you search for 10 years what that occupation is. It could be anything else, becoming a teacher or becoming something else, and you dedicate your life to achieving that. Once you achieve that, now you're happy, and now you can find the next task to achieve success.
Yeah, I actually think that, just jumping off that point, what I was trying to say was, I think I would personally get more enjoyment out of achieving something more related to like what I'm doing than how much I'm getting paid, because I feel like there's so many jobs out there where you could get paid very well, but it's just soulless work, stuff that you just really don't enjoy. You know what I mean? I guess it depends on the person. You know what I mean? Some people could love that soulless work. Like some people could love a job that I find boring as shit, and vice versa.
Of course, but then
You know what I mean?
what's the point of doing it if you don't like it? But I think that relates again to that point of society tells you, if you do well in school, you'll get a good job, you'll be happy. But that to me is a flawed statement. It doesn't exist.
Something that I was talking to, I think it was Bucky on the first podcast. I brought up the idea of how I think it would be a better idea to push trades in high school.
100%.
Yeah, not saying that college shouldn't be something you should consider. If you have something you want to do, in your mind, then go for it if you have the money for it. But the fact that I feel like trades were stigmatized when we were in high school, and how college became more of, this is what you need to do.
Definitely.
That's what's wrong.
Definitely.
And what's wrong is normalizing the fact that you're going to be in an immense amount of debt at 21.
Of course.
Like, that needs to change.
100%. I think that's, again, though, it's especially where we live, there's a formula. If you deviate from that formula, you're ostracized by school and by society.
Yeah.
Right? If you don't go to the best school or college, it's like, he was really smart or she was really smart in college. Why didn't they go to Harvard? But why?
Yeah.
You don't want to incur
What's
that
the point?
debt. Maybe you want to come out of college. And I think that's kind of inevitable, especially right now where we're experimenting with online learning. Right. Why pay $70,000 a year if you have the same access to someone in state if you're both not going into college? And it's honestly threatening the existence of colleges, private institutions, because state institutions are cheaper for in-state, but it's also threatening those because if, let's say, you go to Delaware, right, and a Delaware citizen or a Delaware person that resides in Delaware is paying $4,000, but you're from New York, you have to pay $40,000. It's like, we're both online. Why do we have to pay separate amounts?
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense. And it's threatening that industry. And honestly, a lot of people in colleges or the administration are nervous because that idea of them convincing society that you need to go to college, the more you pay, it's a better investment, is being threatened and questioned, and they don't really have an answer to it based on like what you were saying.
Just speaking about college in general, after college, and you have this very successful business now, are there any future business plans, either with Waffleboyz or with another thing you're thinking of?
Yeah, definitely. I think I want to do that, like I mentioned before, the 2 separate companies, one that's like chicken and waffles, targeted towards, like you said, locations, the ones that would be successful.
Right.
And then also use Waffleboyz, that like trendy idea, and couple that with my influence that I have in certain, colleges, and open those around bars at different colleges. So I want to experiment with that because I do believe it's a successful idea. And if I don't kind of engage in the process, I'll never do it. So I want to do that right as school ends. I want to kind of have a plan, go into that. But I mean, honestly, my goal is, and I think it relates to kind of what the conversations have been about, I want to maybe work in real estate, commercial real estate, corporate real estate, in terms of valuations, but mostly just to learn. So probably for around 4 to 5 years, and then go off on my own, acquiring properties, redevelopment areas. I think the beauty of real estate, actually, and I've kind of questioned whether or not I wanted to go into finance or real estate. Finance in terms of trading, I think, is less of an indication of how well you know yourself, because real estate, when you're analyzing like securities, financing, trading, you're kind of analyzing a formula that exists, meaning you look at technical and fundamental analysis of a certain security, and everyone sees the same things. The smartest people make the most money because there are proven formulas that exist that lead to success. But when you're talking about real estate and you're acquiring properties, and there are different valuation, different metrics to value properties, but it's more how well do I know myself? Because then when you know yourself, you then can assign different values to different risks. And that's the essence of real estate. Stocks and securities, there are values that everyone has the same number in. So whoever has the most capital makes the most money because they can dedicate those to things that people know will be successful, like oil, something that will always bounce back. If you have $1 million right now, put it in oil, it'll bounce back, you'll make a lot of money. For me, I don't have too much to put into it. I believe that's something that will be successful, but I won't become a millionaire from it. Real estate, separate from that, it's more how much capital in terms of time and money do I have to dedicate to a certain entity, and then from that discounts my potential cash flow. So if you know yourself very well and you know, okay, I'm really good at property management, not that great at finances, I will assign a low value to property management, high value to finances, and I'll cultivate a proper answer that then values a property. But it's impossible because no two properties are the same. This house and the house next to it, totally different because they weren't built at the same time. They don't have the same tenants in it. Like, it's impossible to truly value real estate. So if you do promote and kind of figure out how to be successful, it's the most, like, to me, the most gratifying because you really know yourself. It's the best indication of your intelligence.
I agree with you. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so that's kind of where I go.
Kind of speaking on stocks and everything.
Yeah.
Do you have certain stocks that you're into right now?
Yeah, all the boys who are watching this are gonna laugh. I'm actually really into J.C. Penney.
Okay. Why?
The reason I'm into J.C. Penney is I personally believe in retail.
Okay.
A lot of people don't. A lot of people in the industry don't. A lot of
if you're an Amazon lover,
right? Much more intelligent than I am, do not believe in it. So I wouldn't recommend this. But the reason I believe in retail, and I believe J.C. Penney is one of the prime areas that will be successful and rise to. So J.C. Penney actually filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy around 2 months ago. Okay. Now, the difference between Chapter 11 and Chapter 7 bankruptcy is Chapter 7, you liquidate the company. Chapter 11, it's a reorganization plan to eventually pay off your debtors, or pay off your creditors, I'm sorry. You're the debtor, you pay off your creditors, and then you rise from the bankruptcy and try to cultivate a successful business model. I think retail will survive past this, especially JCPenney, because it's existed for 116 years. So it has real estate, it owns all its properties. It will cut off its bad debt, and eventually it will cultivate success because there's a few statistics. There's a few statistics. I think it's 80, even with the pandemic, 80% of all retail profit or all retail business comes from in the store. And I think that's related to the fact that people want to get out. They want to shop. Right. They don't want to shop online. Of course, that's where we're going, but you can't try on products. You can't do anything like that. But then not only is that, 90% of profit comes within the store. So I think retail will exist at least for the next 20 years. And there's actually a lot of rumors that Amazon might buy JCPenney and kind of create like an outdoor mall. And it will kind of change the game of any sales process ever, because they'll have just sporting goods, and then they'll have Louisville Slugger, Reebok, Adidas,
right. They'll just own everything.
They don't own any inventory, so they can sell all their products that they purchased or that are sold through other avenues, other wholesalers, and just sell it like sporting goods store, clothing store, and then they have Dior, Chanel, Gucci in that clothing store, which other places don't really have because Amazon has access to the most. Amazon only has 2 pieces of inventory. It's the Fire Stick and it's the Kindle.
Right,
so
exactly.
Yeah.
When you say that 90% of the shopping takes place within the store, do you mean that opposed to online shopping?
As opposed to online shopping.
Okay, got you.
So the profit comes in the store, and I think it's mostly because it's so expensive to advertise and ship and all that type of stuff. Right. But they need to do it because other companies are doing it.
Also, another thing, and I'm a big believer in this, when you talk about even like movie theaters, I think there's an experience people want, whether it be shopping or going to a movie or I don't know, going to Dave & Buster's, playing some video games.
Right.
Like there's an experience to going and buying something or going and doing something. So yeah, I agree with you. I think retail, even my mom, she owns this bag.
Right.
Like there's an experience to people going in and and instead of just going online and buying something, you know.
It kind of destroys that whole process. I mean, look, it might not rise from it. There's definitely a chance that we fully go online, but I think especially for the years following our rise from this pandemic, I think we're going to see a rise in in-person shopping because it's an experience. Like you said, people want to engage in conversation and interaction. I think
people are ready to crave it right now.
Definitely.
Do you think you would like do you think for your company that when potentially if we get into this period of everything's completely normal now, do you think you're going to be in that sweet spot?
I hope so. I think food will always exist. I think social media, which is a big component of dessert industries, will always exist. But it relies a lot on colleges, bars and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of the whole point. It's that idea of systematic or unsystematic risk, or systematic risk, meaning that it's undiversifiable. You can't avoid it. There's nothing you can do, like a pandemic. No matter what, there are certain things that might happen that could destroy your business.
Right.
And you can't do anything about it.
You never know.
Like a retail business, it might be destroyed. I hope not. I don't personally think it will be, but it could be. You can never have pandemic insurance. You know what I mean? Like, there's nothing to do that can prevent that from destroying your business.
Yeah, so I guess it's just like playing it by ear and everything.
You gotta do.
Yeah.
Hope for the best.
You told me you saw American History X a couple weeks ago?
Yes, great movie. Great movie from one of your favorite actors, Edward Norton.
Edward Norton, yeah, he's the best. I don't know why he's been in some other stuff recently, but nothing to the tier of Fight Club or American History X or any of those huge ones. Yeah, it is really hard. I think it's because, do you know the whole thing with him, how he's very hard to work with?
Really?
There's actually, if you look up like stuff about American History X, the director, Tony Kaye, he was very hard on Edward Norton. Edward Norton was very hard on him. Edward Norton wanted to get involved with the editing, and he wanted to change the ending and everything. So he's just a very hard actor to work with.
Sure.
But I guess when people care about their work so much, that's what really brings greatness.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that relates to that idea of those successful habits. I mean, especially actors. I mean, they say so many of them are so hard to work with because they believe in their craft.
Even taking Kubrick, how he shot scenes hundreds of times. It really is. All that relates to success. So regarding American History X, something I wanted to talk about was taking Edward Norton, for instance. If you haven't seen American History X, it's about a neo-Nazi. Edward Norton plays a neo-Nazi. And essentially, what I wanted to ask was, do you think these actors have a hard time stepping into the shoes of such a terrible character?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question, honestly. Yeah. I never really thought about that. I think that's kind of the essence of acting, though. I think the best actors, and it's very nuanced occupation, but I think it's basically becoming the character. And those are the best actors, right? The ones that become the character.
The method actors.
The Joker, right? What's his name? The one that played the original Joker in Batman.
First Heath Ledger,
Yeah, Heath Ledger, right. So he became the Joker, and ultimately, sadly enough, it kind of resulted in his suicide or death, right? But I think that's the hardest part, is the best actors are the ones that become the character, and then if that's the case, then did he become a neo-Nazi in terms of his thought process for the movie? And that's kind of a crazy thing to think about. But definitely, I think it's definitely hard. But again, it's acting, right? Like, you have to engage yourself in what a person in those shoes would think, which is difficult, but it's also just to portray a positive message, which the movie does, right? And in the movie, it portrays the idea, and I think that's relative to the figurative kind of influence that the movie has, where prior to his going to jail, everything's black and white.
Right.
Because one, literally, he sees things as black versus whites because he's a neo-Nazi and sees black people as less than white people, but also figuratively sees the world as black and white in terms of he doesn't understand that other things exist outside of just race and religion.
Right.
People are people outside of inherently who they are when they're born.
And that's an exquisite explanation.
Yeah, and that's crazy. It really is crazy, though. And I think in the end of the day, he plays a good person in the end, and it leads to his demise, right? But, it's definitely difficult. And I think another cool point about that are things like Dustin Hoffman, right, in Rain Man.
Right, when he had
played an autistic person, and that's hard, too. But he's not obviously making fun of that. It's to prove a positive message about individuals with autism, right? So I think it's kind of more like they justify it in the sense of we're providing a positive message to not be a neo-Nazi.
Exactly. Yeah, I agree with you. Another interesting example, like I saw an interview with Leonardo DiCaprio when he was talking about Wolf of Wall Street. And he obviously, when you see him in interviews, I don't know him personally, but he seems like a very like nice, very like, and when he played Jordan Belfort, he was the complete opposite of that. Even when he was doing the sex scenes with what's her face?
Yeah, no, you're talking about.
It's gonna bug me. It's gonna
yeah.
Margot Robbie.
Right.
And he said how that made him very uncomfortable.
Right.
To one play that role.
Right.
And also to do those crazy sex scenes.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, who are actors, right? If their occupation, their money is made from being somebody else. That's what the essence of acting is, right? Yeah. You have to adapt someone else that the director, the producer tells you to be. So who are they? Right. That's crazy to me too. I think I saw Joaquin Phoenix, who plays the new Joker, and like I've seen interviews with him where he's being like crazy. And is he actually that person, or is he just kind of pretending because of a movie that he's playing to celebrate character? To engage yourself to be the Joker, and I think he did a great job in it. Different than Heath Ledger's Joker, but I think also really good. Was how do you then get out of that? It's similar to like people in the military with PTSD, where like, how do you expect these guys and
it's an interesting analogy.
It is though, because how do you then expect them to come home and be okay seeing cars behind them? They think everyone behind them is a threat. And then you see a lot of suicide rate, just like you see a high suicide rate with celebrities,
It's a really good point. I really thought about that.
Thank you.
Talking about... So do you think a role like the Joker, like let's say taking Joaquin Phoenix's role, do you think that instantly, for most actors, could have a negative mental health effect?
I mean, yeah, I think you need to be very secure in who you are outside of cinema, outside of celebrity. I think even depression amongst any celebrity, athletes, movie stars, musicians, is so high, more than normal individuals, because they're permanently in the limelight. And when you're permanently in the limelight, you have a duty amongst society to kind of uphold that perception of you. Like Leonardo DiCaprio, to everyone is this like perfect, rich, perfect person, because he plays those type of people, which are obviously a little flawed, like Jordan Belfort, like Gatsby.
Of course.
But he's also a human being outside of those parts. And like, who is he outside of that? How does he uphold that kind of perception of him when maybe he's just like a quiet guy, like you said?
Yeah, exactly. Do you think that maybe some actors feel guilty? You know what I mean? Like they shouldn't.
Right.
But do you think that that's something that they go through, or directors?
Yeah, I think the psychology of actors is something that definitely should be studied, because again, it's that point of you're for a living becoming someone else for prolonged periods of time. Those are the best actors. The ones that win Academy Awards are the method actors who become other people. So how do you then, okay, movie's over, I won my Academy Award, okay, now that's it. It's rare for that to happen. And I think you can allow it, like everything else in life, you could allow it to be a detriment, but you also could allow it to progress you into being more secure in who you are. And I think even, that's why childhood actors often have trouble, and childhood celebrities, because their brain has yet to kind of adapt or grow in terms of who they really are. So they become the celebrity Justin Bieber, not the real Justin Bieber. And the celebrity Justin Bieber is going to have problems because there's no real Justin Bieber yet, right? And that's obviously music, but it's a similar idea where Macaulay Culkin, kids that were, great childhood actors, even Bronx Tale.
Yeah.
Right,
that guy.
Went to jail for armed robbery because you become so famous at such a young age prior to your brain's development. Your brain develops in the limelight, and that's a really, really scary thing. It's
terrible for you.
Yeah,
even talking about who was that singer that shaved her head?
Britney Spears.
She's
having some problems right now.
Yeah. There's so many people, drug problems.
Yeah.
Growing up like that. Definitely, growing up in the limelight is something that we can't understand. Definitely not.
Crazy.
Having all the criticism against you. Even regular people who are on social media, feel like they're facing criticism. So amplify that by
imagine thousands of people, and that's that whole idea of LeBron when he goes into playoff mode. It's shutting off social media, because if you're a celebrity and you can't handle criticism, you'll never be successful.
Yeah.
Because there are thousands of people that for no reason other than because they feel bad about themselves have to criticize you. If you look at Instagram comments, celebrities, half them are like, you stink, like you're awful, like for no reason. You know what I mean? There's
Right.
no real reason for that. But if you can't accept that, then you'll never really be successful.
That's true. That's true. Do you think it's? Would you rather be like okay? Do you go after wealth or fame?
I think J. Cole says it best. Keep the fame. I'll take the money.
Yeah.
I don't need to be famous. Realistically, I mean, as a young kid, I always did. I wanted to be famous, but imagine never being able to go to McDonald's with your boys again.
Oh my god.
You know what I mean? Like seriously,
Specifically,
though.
yeah.
Like imagine
Yeah.
never being able to go to your son's baseball game or your
Yeah.
daughter's anything because you're LeBron James. And that's why, and this is a little tangent, but this is why I have so much respect for him, because he's been in the limelight since 16 years old. He's on the cover of Sports Illustrated, the most popular sport magazine. And in his 20-year NBA career, he's had like one or two media blunders. Like he has to be so secure in himself to not care. Losing the NBA Finals, being criticized. Like, how do you bounce back from that? Because when you're tough. In that light, no matter what you say, you care about what other people think. That's why you do it. That's why you feed off the fans, because you love when everyone rises and roars when you hit a jump shot or when you hit a home run. So when you strike out, how do you bounce back? And I think Ray Lewis, actually, one of the best linebackers of all time, he has a quote that says, "The minute I became a Hall of Famer was the minute I realized that the fans don't matter." Because if you were consistently thinking about the millions of people watching you,
never going to be happy.
Never. So once you realize that I'm doing this because I love it, who cares what other people think? That's how you become successful. But that's probably the hardest thing to do.
I think that's what any human could attest to. That it's absolutely. If you're someone who says that you don't care what other people think about you, like
then why do you get up in the morning?
Yeah, you know what I mean? Exactly. And it's unfortunate, but there's pros and cons.
Of course.
Even taking nervousness, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people argue that being nervous or being anxious actually could be channeled with very good energy and creating something great or motivating you. You know what I mean?
I think you have to weigh and I think the root of anxiety, it's related to that idea, that statistic, that the greatest fear in the world is public speaking.
Right.
People would rather, the greatest fear in the world statistically is public speaking. The second is death. So people would rather die than speak at a funeral. It's a crazy concept, but it's true, because regardless of what you say, you care about what people think about you. And that cultivates a very anxious individual, and you don't want to speak in front of people. But if you can channel that, basically say, I don't really care what people think. If they don't support me for who I am, then, don't hang around me.
Exactly.
That's kind of the root of it. But it is hard. I mean, even in school, there's a big emphasis on public speaking and projects. And I could talk to myself all day and have genius ideas, but when I see the teacher watching me and there's a tangible grade involved, it's definitely heightens the anxiety and
it's
fear,
definitely different, yeah. Okay, we can't record this podcast without addressing what happened last episode. And Jack Ryan came on, and he said, "I want to be president in 2048." But we all know that Alec Dean, you said the same sentiment.
2048, baby.
Alec Dean 2048. So tell me, any policies you agree with that Jack? Did you listen to the Jack Ryan podcast?
I did.
Okay. So any ideas you agree with him? Any ideas that you disagree?
Yeah. So I think the beauty of and the intelligence of Jack is, look, and not to get political by any means, but I think the problem, and it's crazy to think about, because you look at the founding fathers, George Washington, he said in 1789 or whatever it was after the Constitution was signed that the downfall of society will be political parties. And that was 250 years ago almost. Yeah. That's crazy to think.
I remember learning that in A-Push with you.
How crazy is that? Yeah. That George Washington knew 220, 230 years ago that political parties, factions, will divide this country and be the downfall of the society. And it's evident today, 100%. Yeah, even 100%. The virus is politicized, So I think Jack, and just speaking to Jack is very, very principled in American values. It's not about Republicans, Democrats. It's about liberty and justice and freedom. And that's kind of what he represents. Mm-hmm. And that's why I've kind of succumbed to allowing him to be the president. I would be vice president.
Okay.
He also has a cleaner record than me, so I'll give it to him. But no, I think every policy that he has backing in the Constitution. Anything Jack says relevant to the United States of America right now has some sort of basis in the Constitution, and that to me is like genius. It's not about, and granted, it's tough to become president nowadays without being a puppet for a political party, because they don't promote you unless you have that appeal. But I think as we continue to progress as a society, and the time 2048 comes, I think we'll be a society that doesn't appreciate Washington insiders, appreciates people that truly represent what this country should represent. And I think by then we're not going to represent what we should, and Jack Ryan and potentially myself as the vice president will be the solution, because right now, even in itself, both parties, it's not about America anymore.
Yeah.
It's about parties, and that's what George Washington said in 17 whatever, and that's scary because we're the only nation ever to be formulated from freedom. That was our basis, right? Any other thing, it was a imperial power that just took over. It was an empire. United States of America fought the most powerful military in the world with the only thing supporting us being freedom. I mean, that idea to me, that's why I love this country a lot, because we're the only nation ever that our first principle, right, our first idea of the Constitution, the reason we left England was we want to be free, we're human beings, we have the unalienable right to be free. And nowadays, we're violating both sides, everyone, politics itself is a pure violation of that freedom and liberty. And I think Jack in itself, when you hear him speak, listening to the podcast as well, it's just all about American freedom, American liberty, something that's not even brought up anymore in politics.
Alec Dean, that was an absolutely incredible time with you. Had some great conversations. I'm really glad you came on. Thank you very much for joining the show.
Of course, man. I mean, like I said, we've had a lot of podcast-like discussions in our day.
Yeah.
Definitely not enough to even talk about in this, hour.
We would need to make
time.
multiple,
and I hope to do that in the future. But I appreciate having me on. I hope it turns out very, very good. And I look forward to potential more spewing in the future.
We will see you with Jack Ryan.
Yes, sir.
Shooting the shit out. I'll see you later, Alec.
Let's go, baby.
Have a good one.